What's going on, guys? It's Corey from SuperKamiGuru9000, and I wanted to do something a little different for you guys today. You see, we love anime here, and by extension, we love video games. And one of my favorite video game series of all time is Resident Evil. And you know what? I am really excited because they just announced Resident Evil 6, which is the big new entry in the Resident Evil series. But there's also a ton of other new Resident Evil games coming out this year, and this has got me really excited. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of my thoughts and my breakdowns on the entire series as a whole, and I'm just going to give you my opinions on what I think about some of the different games in the series. Resident Evil is the genesis of survival horror. It's what really started it all, and this is the type of game that really caught me off guard because the first time I ever played it, I was very young, and it was horrifying. The very first time I ever played the game was, of course, on the PlayStation back in 1998. I myself was kind of an N64 kid, but my brother had a PlayStation, and because of that, I was able to play Resident Evil. See, one day one of his friends came over and he brought all of his PlayStation games over, and one of them caught my eye. It was this game that had a really creepy-looking zombie on the cover, and it was apparently the director's cut version of this game. So I knew I was going to be getting into something crazy, and he said I could borrow some of his games and try them out on my brother's PlayStation, and that just happened to be one of the games that I picked. What I didn't realize is that I was getting myself into was one of the most scary experiences of my entire life. When I first popped in the game, the first thing that was apparent was this game bled with atmosphere. Everything from the music to the cheesy dialogue to the monsters was just awesome. The very first time you see a zombie is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But honestly, it was the dogs that really got me. The very first time you walk through that hallway and those dogs just burst through the window trying to kill you. I literally turned the game off. I couldn't play any longer. But somehow, some way, every single week, I'd come back, I'd play another extra 10 minutes, and I'd get a little more courage, and I'd want to keep going forward. I was always scared about what was behind every single door, but I wanted to see what was going on in this story. It was very intriguing, and it was obvious that something was going on here. There was more to these zombies and creatures than I thought there were. There was nothing demonic behind it. In fact, there was actually a logical... Well, I don't want to say really logical explanation behind it, but it was all the Umbrella Corporation, and this was, of course, what was revealed in the very first game. And it sort of set the tone for the entire series, and it's easily the most horrifying entry in the entire game series. But, you know, I do love the original Resident Evil 1 for its quirkiness and for its horror and how it got me hooked on the series. But I do prefer the GameCube remake more, as it is a little more serious. It does have some homages to the original game, and itself is incredibly scary, and I do consider it the definitive Resident Evil game. Now, Resident Evil 2 is a whole different kind of beast for me. You see, this is the type of game that when I first played it at first, it wasn't as scary as the first game, and it may have a lot to do with the fact that the setting is a little bit bigger and a little more wider. But there were a lot of things in this game that I really dug. There was, of course, the scene in the beginning when you walk into the police station with the liquor crawling across the wall, and that was really awesome. And when you played the B story with either Leon or Claire, particularly I like to play it with Claire, when you have Mr. X, the tyrant who chases after you throughout the city. This was, of course, a idea that was segued a little bit better in Resident Evil Nemesis. Now, Nemesis is one of those games that just is awesome. This is when the series started to become a little bit more action-oriented, but that's not a bad thing. But the whole point of this game is that you had Nemesis, who is this giant BOW who was chasing you through the entire game, and he just gave me a big sense of paranoia when I was playing this game. I was afraid to go into certain rooms because I knew any second, anywhere, this giant friggin' monster was just going to pound through the walls and start trying to chase me and shoot me with his rocket launcher or impale me with his giant tentacle. Insert hentai joke here. The point is, this game gave you a lot of tense fear, and it made it so that when you entered a room, you had to think about what you were going to do each and every time, and that was really cool. Now, Resident Evil 4 is the game that everybody loves, and I love it too, and I gotta tell you, I was really looking forward to this game when it was coming out back in the day. I remember in 2004, like around Christmas time, when the official website was up and they had the counter, even though I knew it was still like a good 30 days away in like January, I would still go to the website every day just to look at the counter, and when I got it, I didn't stop. I played this thing non-stop every single day. I was doing everything I could to unlock all the weapons, and I just loved it. The story, I'm glad that Leon was back. There was a lot of cool action. There was a lot of cool story elements. I liked that they brought Ada back from Resident Evil 2. It was just a slam-bam action game that was awesome. But they extended from that from here. They gave us Resident Evil 5. You could try to sprinkle some horror in there by the fact that there's some scary looking enemies in the game, but the fact that you have a partner with you the entire time really makes it hard to be scared in this game, and especially if you're playing online with someone, it is just a cakewalk. Sheva Alomar is probably one of the most uninteresting characters I've seen in Resident Evil, but the fact that you can use her in a co-op mode online does make the game a little interesting, and it does have a lot of really cool moments. And of course you get to conclude the story with Wesker, spoiler alert, but of course that's really, really cool. But they just announced Resident Evil 6. Holy friggin' crap, and this is going to be a great one, because they're finally going to include Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield in a single game. There's one new character, a new mercenary type character, who's this bald guy, who's apparently some sort of badass who has some sort of resistance to the virus. And Capcom has not revealed who this is yet, and I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say who this guy might actually be. He may or may not be this Alex Wesker guy that everybody seems to be talking about. But from what I've taken from this trailer, it looks like it is going to be a more of an action-oriented game again. However, it looks like Capcom is going back to the drawing board for a few things. It looks like they are going to include zombies again, T-virus zombies, as seen in Leon's story. And this has got me really, really excited. But then you got to go to Chris Redfield, whose story takes place in China, and he seems to be fighting against some sort of new creatures. Possibly they're Las Plagas. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're just something completely brand new. But the story itself looks like they're going to be intertwined with all of these characters, and it looks like a really, really great game. I can't really wait to play it. And that's not the only Resident Evil game coming out this year. Just 2 weeks from now, you got Resident Evil Revelations coming out on the Nintendo 3DS, and that's way more of a traditional Resident Evil game, so you guys should really think about picking that up if you're excited about it. And then there's Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, which comes out in March, which is going to be a 6-man squad shooter, which takes place during the events of Resident Evil 2 and 3. And that one looks really, really cool as well, because you actually get to play as USS Umbrella operatives, and they're all really, really awesome looking, and they're going to destroy the zombies. So the Resident Evil franchise is still really fresh, it's still really awesome, and it's still giving us plenty of scares. If there's only one blemish on the Resident Evil series, it's those bullshit movies done by Paul Anderson and his stupid-ass wife, Mila Jovovich. She has ruined the Resident Evil movies and made them practically unwatchable. If you guys are any sort of fans of the games, do not support those bullshit movies, but do support these badass games, because they're going to be really good. This is the year of Resident Evil. Pick up Revelations, pick up Operation Raccoon City, and most definitely pick up Resident Evil 6. This is the original survival horror franchise. It may not have been the very first one, but it certainly is the one that made it the most popular, and it's clearly one of the greatest gaming franchises of all time, and one of my very, very favorite. So if you guys really liked this video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to let me know what you thought about the Resident Evil series, whether it be the games, the books, or even the movies, you can let me know with your comments below. That concludes this video, guys. SuperKamiGuru9000, out.